Okay. Hello. We are live. Give just a second, see if we have some people join us. This is the Business in Abundance interview series. Today, I have with me Emma Ferrick of ELF Operations. Super excited to have her. And gosh, let's just kick things off a little bit by having you just share a little bit about yourself. I'd love to know anything you want to share about you, what makes you you, but also why you started ELF Operations. And then we can kind of dive into what that's all about. I love to hear the why.
Yeah. So I started ELF Operations when I was a single mom. I was still working full time in corporate and I was just struggling financially. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to make things better for my daughter and myself. I had just graduated college like a year prior. So the financial struggle was just real and I was overwhelmed and I didn't want to keep missing out on time with her. And as most moms can probably attest and understand that corporate isn't always the best when it comes to raising your kiddos. And I was doing it by myself. So I was like borrowing days ahead, like for PTO, because we also had a domestic violence issue. So I was like taking time off for court. I was taking time off for like sick, her being sick or myself being sick. And it just like wasn't working out. So I started researching what I could do to help be able to work from home or have some more flexibility because I knew I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just didn't know what I wanted to do. And then eventually I found virtual assistant services. And so I started my virtual assistant business that I was building on the side while still working full time. I always say I built my business between the hours of like 10 and midnight and early morning before I went to work. So efficiency has always been a big thing for me. I am big into tech. My background is in operations and process improvement and resource planning. Um, so I could apply a lot of those skills into what I was doing as a VA and help build my business so that it wasn't going to become more of a time suck for me as well. And then the pandemic hit, and someone had to stay home with my daughter. And my now husband went back to work, like he was laid off for a short period of time. So I just decided, okay, I'm making this jump full time into entrepreneurship to be home with my daughter and make it work and deal with the pandemic. But it was a great opportunity for me to transition into an operations consultant and a tech assistant. Not really assistant, but like consultant for a lot of small businesses who were struggling to get online at the time or make that transition. So it was really actually a good time for me to jump in full time and start making these connections and helping other businesses build efficiently and grow efficiently. So that's kind of what led to ELF Operations as it is today, which is an operations consulting firm. And we work to employ single mamas and domestic violence survivors who need that flexibility. That's really, really important to me. It all ties into our Thrive Over Survive mission, which is just the foundation of how we work with clients, how we hire, how we do anything in the business. So I'm really excited for all of the growth that we're going to have this year, but that's kind of what led us up to this point. And I should say ELF are my initials. Everyone always asks, like, what does ELF stand for? And those were my
It's also
initials before
perfect.
getting married.
It's also perfect when it comes to operations because you think of like elves, right? I'm sure you you hear this like getting things done
Yes.
behind the scenes magically. And I feel like when
Yes.
it comes to operations in particular, it's so vital and has to happen for any business to run. And it's almost like the magician behind the curtain that people don't really always think about or see what's happening, the inner workings. They think that, everything just sort of magically appears and functions, but operations is so crucial. So I'm really excited to have you here. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd love to dive in a little bit first of all, just as a
Okay.
fellow, as a single mother, as you were,
Right.
I really, really get it, and I think any mother can relate to the struggles of balancing and juggling motherhood, and um, especially if they
Yes.
don't have another income, really trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to survive? And I know as a single mother
Right.
myself, it's easy to get into that loop of being in survival mode. Even
Oh, yeah.
just making sure there's that constant, I've got to make sure everybody's okay. And so I just want to give
Yeah.
you kudos for like having the courage to create a business and to be, sorry, my puppy, to
Oh.
be resourceful. Sorry about that. So Zara, okay, sorry for that. He's excited.
Okay.
We just had groceries delivered and he's very excited.
Oh, I get that. That's a good thing to
This is
happen. Have
motherhood. This
happen.
is real life, real life mother. But just to be resourceful during those times, because sometimes when we're overwhelmed and we're stressed, it's hard to even be resourceful and break away from, I have it, sweetie, and break away from the grind. So,
Yeah.
because we get into, often I hear women talk about being stuck on, yeah, honey, here. Being stuck on the hamster wheel, being stuck on the
Yeah.
hamster wheel and just feeling like, oh my gosh, I have got to get that next paycheck. I have to, put food on the table, the roof over our heads. So I love what you're doing, that
Yeah.
you've been resourceful. I relate because I've been there. I went, my personal journey was going back to school when my twins were infants and going back, starting all over with a whole brand new degree, going through getting a master's degree, and then just continuing to, work hard. Also
Yeah.
recently leaving corporate myself to consult. So I love that we have some similarities in our story. And I think it's so important, and I guess sometimes overlooked or not brought to the surface how important it is for moms, and especially single moms, to have support, to have
Yes.
people who really, not only does it take a village to raise our children, but feel
Oh,
supported
yeah.
in their dreams, their passions, their endeavors. Um, so I know there's like, there's some aspects of the women that you work with. I'd love to hear, like, how do they find you, or how do you find them? And what do they really like need help with? What are some of the foundational areas that you start to help with when it comes to operations or growing a business?
Yeah. So I have packed like offers and services for business owners at any level because I think it is so important to, build those operational foundations from early on because people sometimes overlook that, kind of like what you said earlier. They just think it magically will happen, or they're told like they don't need to really worry about it until like they hit six figures, but there's small steps that you can do that aren't overwhelming, that will give you that foundation, that operational foundation that I like to call it, before you hit six figures and hit that burnout or like multi six figures, where those types of clients who maybe need more of like an OBM and ops consultant coming in, they have a whole team, they have a whole bigger operations. It's going to look really different what kind of support and what you're going to need when you're at that level versus when you're just starting out, because you just need that little bit of that guidance. You need a little bit of the like the bootstrapping almost to get it done because you don't have maybe the cash flow to um invest in some of that tech or invest in the help that you need, because I break it into with my clients really down into three categories, which is strategy, systems, and then support. And like you said, support can look like coaches, it can look like just having that mastermind group for those women who understand. But really, from an operational standpoint, the support is how are you going to hire and how are you going to hire effectively? What does that look like? What does that role look like? And I think too often, many times, it's often just, this is not to like sound mean or anything, but like there's cookie cutter advice that's given, and everyone tries to blindly apply to their business. With operations that does not work, there are best practices, but I always caveat like what I tell, like when I'm on YouTube or when I'm on like a training, like this is a good foundational start, or like this is a where you could begin, but you really need to apply it to your business in the sense of like what's your vision, what's your goals, um, and who you are as a person and how you want your business to look, because that's really what differentiates you and your business. So your operations really needs to reflect that. But those are like the three core areas that I like cover with my clients, no matter what stage they're at, but they look different at each level of business because there is such a thing as continuous improvement that's not talked about as much on the online space as it is in like manufacturing, because that's where I used to work. And in like product-based businesses, the continuous improvement mindset is really big because of just like making sure overhead costs aren't getting too high and things like that. But it still applies to even the smallest business. It's just going to look, like I said, different. It does look different in a service-based business. So that's kind of what me and my clients cover, and we go through it on you definitely need to look at this every time. It's not going to be a set it and forget it. Like you definitely want to keep reviewing this kind of stuff as you grow.
Mm-hmm.
And making those good habits is something I always talk about with my like newer entrepreneurs, is you want to build these good habits so you're not getting to that stage of burnout. And then for those who are like at the burnout stage and they're just like, I have this huge business, it grew with how I didn't even know, I don't know what to do, I need to bring on help, I hate my business now because it just takes over my life, this is not what I wanted. Like that's what I hear a lot of times. Those people have to start building the habits, and sometimes they struggle with like delegation or just documenting their processes, quality control. Like we work on those kind of things if they are beyond that, not beyond like help or anything, but they're beyond the beginner phases. They just they have those proven offers, they have the marketing, they have the sales funnels, but they don't maybe have the team piece really to support them, or they could have better systems. Like I've seen companies come to me and they're operating out of spreadsheets, like, which is fine and it works for them, but they know that there's a better way. They just don't know how or what
Mm-hmm.
to do to get there. So that's kind of what I work on, how I know you're going to ask like, where do you get those clients? What do you do kind of thing? I'll just be brief on that because obviously, um, there's like short-term marketing that I work on and longer-term marketing, like SEO based and those kind of things. But a lot of my clients are referrals and they're just in different industries because of the work I do in Clickup as well. So that's like a core piece of what I work on with clients, is using Clickup as their virtual headquarters to make things efficient, make things run well. And I do work in other project management tools. It just, a lot of the clients that come to me, that is a best fit for their team, especially with the size or just like getting started, is super cost effective because you can have it for free. So it's a great bootstrapping tool as well for the beginners out there. But building those out and getting the referrals for smaller and bigger teams for those builds has been a huge way for my business to grow. I don't know if that's kind of where you meant with that question, but like
Yeah, no,
marketing
that's super
strategies, so to speak.
super helpful. I talk to a lot of, I would say, solopreneurs, coaches, entrepreneurs who they feel very easily overwhelmed by having to do it all, right? Like, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
I don't know which software to use. I think I'm supposed to have a
Yeah.
funnel, a website, a mailing list, a course. And I think that's where
Yeah.
operations can start to kind of go awry because they're so maybe
Yeah.
focused on building like one piece or focusing so much on this one thing that the other elements don't get put into place. Or even like you said, people rarely take the time, I think, to create SOPs, create their operating procedures, or like you said, document processes. And then then they have to train. They spend a lot more time maybe training if they do hire a team member, or they forget how they did it. They have to
Oh, yeah.
relearn. It creates a lot, it wastes a lot of time. So I think efficiency is so important. And we have so many incredible tools. So I love ClickUp. I use ClickUp in several businesses myself, and have in the past as well. But what would you say to somebody who comes to you and they're an entrepreneur and they're using all kinds of different
Oh,
programs
yeah.
and maybe focusing on one thing, but not the pieces aren't all working together, the parts. What are
Yeah.
some beginning steps to like getting your business organized and on track?
It's a good, deep question, but it's such a good and important question. So, one, I do have a resource on my website. It's on elfoperations.com/resources. It's my Tech Stack to Freedom worksheet. It does help with that analysis paralysis of like multiple, because you do have multiple options coming at you. And like a lot of new entrepreneurs, like you said, get overwhelmed with all of the options out there. So that tool is there to help kind of guide you through the framework of what I use with my clients of, okay, is this price in my budget? But like, if it's a little bit out of my budget, are these features worth the investment? Because it is going to save me time, it is going to save me money, and my company is going to grow into it. Like we look at the features, we look at the pricing, we look at like the business needs. Is it going to integrate into other tools? That's a big thing people don't look at. And then they just start like piecemealing these tools together and they don't look at like, oh, do they talk to each other? Do they talk to Zapier, which is like a huge tool that a lot of my clients don't know about or want to learn. So they just have me set it up for them. But it is a great tool. And I always say, like, go for the $20 plan. I think it's still $20. I keep paying $20. I don't know if I'm grandfathered in at this point, because you can automate things better and easier and cheaper than in hiring someone. Like people don't
Mhm.
always like that advice because I hear coaches say, just hire a VA, hire that. I'm like, no, automate first because you could pay $20 an hour and do this in Zapier, and it's $20 a month versus paying a VA like $10 to $15 an hour, whatever it is that you're paying. I know there's a huge price range. I'm not going to get into that rabbit hole right now. But you don't have to manage them. I mean, there's like some oversight with your systems, but it's definitely better to start with like streamlining and efficiency and tools first because they're easier to manage than hiring someone, because then you have to quality control, you have to like answer questions, there's just like a lot more, and that's its own process is hiring. So I'm not saying don't hire, I just think a lot of entrepreneurs should automate and get their system set up first before they go directly into hiring, because also then you're giving that VA tasks that are truly manual tasks and meaningful tasks and
Mhm.
things that they're not going to be like, I hate doing this kind of thing. So Zapier is one of my favorite tools to start using even from the get-go. It's kind of tricky. It's not tricky to learn. They've definitely made it a lot better and easier and intuitive. So playing around with that, getting some of those in place, especially like looking to see if the tool you're looking at will integrate with that. Um, and making sure you have one like a project management tool like ClickUp or Asana. I like ClickUp because I can use it as more of a database as well. So it keeps everything organized for my business, because a lot of the times entrepreneurs are overwhelmed because they're wasting time looking for things or they don't know how to keep things organized. So in my ClickUp, there's a space for almost everything. And I do have an automation set up. So like I can also keep track and have a database of connections. So I organize them. I can quickly find them. And I have custom columns built out to say like what they do, what their name is, what their email is. So it looks like a spreadsheet, but it's in ClickUp. And that also helps manage yourself. Like using a project management tool to manage yourself is such an easy way. People think it sounds silly. They think it's weird to assign tasks to themselves, but it's a great habit to foundationally get into as a new entrepreneur is like, you don't have to get everything done at once. Like stop thinking that you can delegate and decide when you want to do it. You don't have to rush yourself. I've fallen into that trap when I first started of being overwhelmed, like I want to do this, this, and this, and then beating myself up with not getting it done. You can just filter those ideas into a ClickUp list. You can assign tasks to yourself for later. So then you're also not wasting that mental energy and you're learning how to manage yourself and your time so that you can then do it when you have other hires coming in, like to better manage them and assign out tasks. And then it's also there and documented, like you can keep notes in the task, make it reoccurring. So then you're starting to build out those SOPs without making it feel like another to do. It's then it's just right there. And people tend to overcomplicate it. It doesn't have to be the most perfect SOP. It could be a Loom video. It could be, I use Scribe for written ones because I really like that Chrome extension because it'll take screenshots as you record.
Ooh, that's a good tip. I'm going to write that one down.
Yeah, it's kind of like Loom, but it doesn't record the video, but it does record your voice and then where you're clicking on the screen, and it'll convert and transcribe your voice and then
Well, that is
take the screenshots
amazing.
for you.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Oh
I
my
actually
goodness.
just did a training on my YouTube for SOPs. So if you're struggling with SOPs,
Oh
go check
yeah,
out my
I've got to
YouTube.
check that out. Tell us a little bit while you're talking about it. What is your YouTube channel and what kind of things do you talk about or cover there?
Yeah. So the YouTube channel is you can find me on any platform at elf_operations or just elf operations. My YouTube channel has a lot of behind the scenes ClickUp content, automation content's coming up. We just planned out some stuff for Zapier talking about that, Chat GBT, because that's just the new hot buzz right now. So anything related to efficiency, you can find that. I do have guests that come on for behind the scenes. So that series is all about talking about the real nitty gritty that no one talks about, how the behind the scenes of business is, like, your operations, your bookkeeping, your, hard lessons learned by other entrepreneurs that like are sharing about it. And then we also have the Thrive Over Survive series, which is all for a platform for women who are recovering from abuse, trying to get their life back on track, like you said, getting out of that hamster wheel and just need some tools and resources to help with their mental health, their physical health. I've had guests of all kinds on the platform to kind of give back. And also if people want to share their stories, because I know it's not talked about enough and it was hard for me to share, but hearing so many people share their stories when I could find them really helped keep me strong when I was trying to get out of the hamster wheel and get out of the cycle of abuse. Because as we know, you tend to go back a lot of the time.
I
So
love that you've created a platform for both because, I understand the value of project management tools, automations, and, it's so important. And I think it's something people still are kind of afraid of and can seem really techy and complicated, but, it
yeah.
can save you so much time, so much energy. I've started using ChatGPT a lot and helping clients
Oh yeah.
with ChatGPT create, a whole social media calendar for a month in 20 minutes. And then you can go into
Yep.
Canva and bulk create. Um, and, the beautiful thing about a project management tool like ClickUp is that I love the feature of being able to set due dates or reoccurring events that will pop up and
Yeah.
remind you so that you don't forget. I love that it also connects to Google because what I've actually found often in the corporate startup space is that companies are still using Google for everything and Google folders
Yeah.
and Google Drive. And it's great. I love Google Drive, but it is not the most efficient or organized system and it can get really messy really fast. So I think
Yes.
linking like your spreadsheet into a task and ClickUp from Google and having everything organized, like I probably just started really optimizing and getting more efficient and automated, myself in like the last 6 months. And it's a game changer, absolute game changer.
Oh
So
yeah.
the value of taking some time to either set this up or hiring somebody who can help you, who understands it, who can help take some of the overwhelm out of it and actually look from that 360-degree view of like, okay, this is what you've got, this is what's going on, because we get so caught up in the weeds with our own business, and having that external support makes a lot of difference, right?
One tip I do want to share with you and your audience for ClickUp is, in case you didn't know, and if you guys are new to ClickUp, the Chrome extension, that's like one piece that I really love about ClickUp, for the efficiency piece, and the fact that you can create a task anywhere because they have that little task bar at the bottom, because some of the other project management tools don't. You have to like go to the list, go find it, whatever. So that's nice when you're like just like thinking about it. But the Chrome extension and linking your Gmail, I use that for email management. A lot of entrepreneurs talk about like being overwhelmed with emails. So you can take the Google when you're in your Gmail, basically, as long as you set it up connected to your Gmail, you can take that email and assign it to, I have an inbox list. I can assign them to myself to do and respond to later. So it's not taking up that mental space of like, who do I need to respond to? Or like getting lost in
Distracting
your
you to feel like
email.
you need to do that right now. I love that. That's a great
Yep.
tip.
Yep. That's one of my favorite, but easiest tips. You can implement it today and it definitely takes a lot of that mental stress off of you.
Yeah. What are some other foundational pieces that, for people to think about? Because say I have some women entrepreneurs who, like I said, they're using a lot of different programs. So we've talked about kind of having an organizational tool, project management tool. That's super important.
Yeah.
Um, Now, one thing I think that's so important to touch on is it can often feel a little intimidating or overwhelming when you first get into one of these tools because maybe your brain doesn't know how to categorize and organize things. And I think we all do that a little bit differently. But do you have sort of like a
Yeah.
standard like method, the Marie Kondo, if you will, of like organizing your business, and like kind of those either those spaces or those folders or those categories? Do you have like an organizational method that seems to work really well?
Yeah, in ClickUp specifically, we kind of like went down this rabbit hole of ClickUp, but that's just kind of what I use. And I mean, you can apply these to Asana, you can apply them to Trello for sure. It's just the terminology might be a little bit different because ClickUp uses a hierarchy system of spaces and folders and lists, where Asana and Trello, they don't have those terminologies, but that's kind of why I like ClickUp better, is because you can further organize stuff a little bit better. But even if you're not like, just even if you're using like a Google Suite, making sure you have like folders that match, those areas. Like I always say, like have your marketing folder or your operations folder, your hiring folder, your core like business overarching folder of like, your EIN, your LLC information, like that, those admin type things that are very overarching for your business. A finance folder, like those main core pieces of your business, those should be like your folders and your starting points for organizing. Like I make spaces for all of those in my ClickUps, especially when I'm doing a build. They might look a little bit different based on like a service. Oh, that's the one I forgot about. Service versus product. You might have client management folder and then like a product folder, like so that or space. That's going to look a little bit different. So kind of categorizing your business into those key sections. I think I said marketing, but marketing, and I usually, um, depending on the business, will break out sales into its own. Well, in Google, I would do it in a folder, but I usually keep sales in the marketing space when I'm in ClickUp. I know I don't have a visual right now, so I wish I did to like like draw it out for everyone. But so taking those core main like pieces of your business and then starting to break those down from there, like what has to happen for each to run smoothly, like what are the tasks that go in here, and then kind of what does that process look like. So a lot of the common statuses I use, in this can be in any project management tool or anywhere, is like to do, in progress, depending on if you have a team, needs review, and then obviously complete. Those are really basic ones, but like it works for a lot of the lists to help keep track of, or stuck, having a stuck status of like coming
Mm,
back to it. There's something there. So really just quickly, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be like in a whiteboard or in a Miro or anything like that, as fancy tool. Just like mapping out really quickly, what does that process look like, or what do you want it to look like? Because a lot of times they're like, I don't know what it needs to look like. And I'm like, what do you want it to look like? Stop letting everybody else dictate how you want your process.
mhm.
Kind of what is that stage, like just brain dumping it, and that'll help you make those statuses really clear. And a lot of the times in ClickUp or in Asana, you can use the statuses to help just like organize. They don't have to be a status of the process. They could be a status that is organizing your information if you're intending to use that list as more of a database. I don't mean to sound like that, probably sounds like stale and boring, but like if you're just using
No.
it to hold info to find later, like the connection pipeline that I talked about, like I break those out into like new connection, referral partner, maybe types of business. Like I'm trying to think off the top of my head. what I have
That's
in
so it's so
set up.
valuable though. I love that you could use it as a brain dump and that idea of like just get it in there because you can always organize the spaces later or further, but just
Yeah.
getting everything out and having it in one place can actually be so freeing and allow some space for creativity or clarity in your business. And you're not thinking, especially knowing where all your important documents are that you might use often, certain like logo files and things like that that you're jumping around into different programs for. So I think this is so valuable, so important to start to think about.
I go down like the rabbit hole, so you definitely just like I might be going a little too deep, but those are good starting points for all of that.
Yeah, no, I love it and I get it. And I think it's important, even if like a business owner is not there yet, to start to think about that and actually really think about the growth and what that will look like. And I know I did recently hire a VA full time and we are using Clickup. And for me, that was a game changer because I got all of like her daily tasks set up recurring in Clickup. And so she just can
Oh
go in
yeah.
and even if I haven't assigned a special project, she knows exactly, okay, I'm going to do this every day. I might change that for the week if we're focusing on something different, but it's been a great tool and luckily she's picked
Oh
it
yeah.
right up and is like loving it and really super efficient with it, and it can make all the difference because like you said, I want to make sure that if I'm using, that the human hours are being spent doing really important human things because we do have the, let's face it, with AI and everything, there are more and more tools that are going to help with automating workflow, efficiency, productivity, which is great. Like my attitude is like, let's embrace it. Let's embrace it and utilize it so that we can focus on making connections, building relationships, doing those important humanistic things that there's no technology can really replace this human to human connection. And that's such an important part of business. So, any thoughts around that? Of course, I love diving into that because I just think it like Chat GPT alone is a game changer for business efficiency.
I 100% agree. I'm actually really excited to see, or I'm on like a wait list right now for chat, and they're working on integration pieces because I was just doing research on like how it connects to Zapier and how you can like then connect it to all these other tools to make it even more efficient. So I really want to get that integration. I just don't have it on my account yet because I'm still using the free plan. So I maybe have to upgrade, but there's always the free plans that you guys can play around on to get started. And don't be afraid to like trial and error it because that's what's going to help you learn. I think so many people are afraid of trying and like tweaking and they just want it done perfectly. But you have to start somewhere. It's not a failure, it's a learning
And I always
opportunity.
And I always say just go in and play, have fun. We
Yeah.
take our businesses so seriously. And of course, there's
Oh
things we
yeah.
want to be serious and organized about, but we also want to just be creative and have fun and remember the reason we started our business or we're doing what we do. There's ways to be really organized and keep having fun, especially with all of these tools. So I would love to know, just because I'm curious for my own knowledge, but I think it would be helpful for people to know, like, what are a few, you did mention the Gmail with ClickUp integration, but what are a few like magical life saving automations that you have utilized or helped others with when it comes to like maybe a Zapier automation or integration?
Yeah, so it does really depend on like tools you use, but a few of them that I like is helping with connecting your CRM to ClickUp. So going from your CRM with your onboarding information, and I know some people use ClickUp for their CRM, so it just depends on what tool you guys are using because a lot of the CRMs will include the contract signing, the invoicing, all of that, or like they have their proposals in there. So connecting your CRM like a HubSpot, a Dipsado, Honeybook, those types, HubSpot and ClickUp have a native integration. So that's awesome because then you can just like really make your onboarding really efficient and have those templates for client management in there. Um, so, but you can do it through Zapier for a lot of other ones. So making sure that's kicking off, behind the scenes onboarding, once they have signed and paid their invoice and signed their contract, and then kicking off the client management piece with a template and ClickUp so that it is triggering. So something in the operation space is called like a pull versus a push system. So you always, I think it's better in a lot of service providers and just a lot of industries in and of itself. It's better to have a pull system than a push. Like you want to be pulled to the next step, not like
Mm.
having someone push it to the next step. Like I always try to create steps that it's like, okay, the system's pulling me to the next step, letting me know, hey, this is done, or hey, this needs attended. Like, so using that. And if you do have a team, utilizing the ClickUp like native time tracking is awesome to like manage your team. That's like a little tool and a hack. Having those dashboards built out has been like game changer for me and helps me cut down on my team management. So like I build out dashboards for each team member. I can see what their overdues are. I can see their time. I can see, like a high level overview really quickly. And then other Zaps that I really like are using Thrivecart. Like that's my favorite checkout tool. So integrating Thrivecart and then Dubsado and ClickUp as well, because I use Dubsado. So it depends on what CRM you use, but and
Mhm.
it also depends on your process. But you can integrate a lot with Thrivecart and Dubsado and ClickUp. And one thing people don't know is because like Dubsado with the triggers, you can trigger a workflow within Dubsado through Zapier. Like a lot of people don't know that. So it doesn't have to be manual. That's like a
So
lot of
there
info,
can
but
be
those are like a few.
no, I get it, and that's amazing. So there are some two-way integrations. So for example, when you mention like I think this is genius in onboarding. So say they go buy something in your cart and then that would lead them to the CRM. Now they're in the CRM and the CRM would trigger
Right.
like sending them a document to sign
Like
or
a form, their client portal, like, and I can also put them in my active client. Like I categorize them by like type of client or type of product that they bought, which then triggers a workflow based on like, and we'll sequence emails as well. Like here's
Oh,
your
that's
onboarding
nice. So it's
email,
almost
here's your
like,
school
your
email.
whole funnel system, your whole CRM system, everything can integrate. And
Right.
gosh, I know just from doing a little bit of that, I feel like I've probably only scratched the surface, but like it's amazing when things just sort of like are orchestrated and almost seamlessly working and things are being taken
Yes.
care of because actually that's going to free up you for sales or conversations, but it's also going to help that you nurture, retain, customers, have that communication. It's so important. There's so many people that drop the ball. They might be doing some of the like lead generation activities, but then there isn't the emails, the follow up, the, nurturing
Oh
and
yeah.
so all of that is like really, really key. So let's go into just a little bit some of the ways if somebody's like, oh my gosh, yes, I need this in my life. Even I use all these things and I'm like, yes, I need this in my life even more. How does someone get started working with you? What are some of your programs or ways that they can work with you? And I'm going to put back up. This actually will go
Yeah.
to your website, this QR code here, and then I'll also put it on the bottom for people to find you. But yeah, share a little bit about how
Thank
you work with
you.
people.
Yeah, so if you're just getting started, some of the best ways to get started with me is you can always book a free 30-minute ClickUp consult or just like a discovery call, connection call, whatever, to um, you know, the ClickUp consult is specifically auditing and ClickUp, looking at your ClickUp and seeing how a few things to optimize. So that's a free 30-minute call that I offer, but discovery calls are also just, what could I do better kind of thing, or what could I do? But two offers that are great for newer business owners or people who aren't ready to, or like are just about ready to hire, I say like mid-level, are the Back Pocket Ops membership. I specifically designed this so you have access to tech trainings, hiring training, strategy training. So those three core areas that I talked about before, those are like the three core areas in our training vault. So strategy, systems, and support. And then we have a tech side, which is just tech specific trainings for like things like ClickUp, Zapier, um, Dubsado, things like that. Those are like a few examples. And then you also get like that Voxer support because it is so customized. I want you to be able to ask questions. I want you to be able to be held accountable to apply the things that are in the vault to your business, to yourself. So the Back Pocket Ops membership is a great like month to month option for beginners, or if you want more of a deep dive into your business, I do offer it's called Get Your Shit Simple VIP Day. And that is a good deep dive into your business. And like you said, outside view we look at it from a 30-foot view, and then we get really granular and how we can give you process improvements, make some changes in your business, and you walk away with a 30-day action plan and some Voxer support with that as well to like help implement. But those are like the two best ways to get started with me, depending on how much customization you kind of want in your business.
That's amazing. I'm going to post here, and I'll also post, I'll actually post it after in the comments, but I'll post all of the links where you can find Emma. This is her website. And I think, just having that consultation, if you are or if you're not using ClickUp, sounds amazing. Just kind of taking a look and maybe just starting to figure out, okay, what could I use some support in, or
Yeah.
an area I could get streamline my operations or get a little bit more organized, because it really can make a difference. And especially if you're starting to feel overwhelmed or burnt out at all. I know that now, because I have been burnt out, I recognize it, and I know that, okay, that it's time for me to, find a different balance in how I'm doing things, or how long I'm spending on a certain project, or what can I delegate now. Like, that's been the toughest thing, especially as an independent, woman, mom,
Oh yeah.
like letting go and delegating. And once I was able to, it is so freeing. And I was like, oh my goodness, now I can, really focus my time and energy, and either have somebody else do these things that were taking me a long time, or I didn't enjoy as much, or really somebody else could do, and I just have to let go of some of that control.
I do
So
that with a lot of my ops clients. I'm like, just delegate it. Like, give it to me, and I'll delegate it to someone. Like, but like, I'm like, you don't need to be doing this. But sometimes we forget because we're just so in the zone.
and we don't know what
You,
to delegate, because we're so used to doing all of the pieces. I think especially as entrepreneurs, like doing the marketing, doing the sales, building a website, like sometimes we don't even know what to let go of. And
yeah,
it is so freeing. So I think just having that kind of that viewpoint from somebody else to say, okay, this is what you have going on, maybe this is where you want to go. I know I do that in my
yeah,
calls with people as well. It's like, well, what are your goals? Are the
yeah.
activities you're doing day to day even in alignment with your goals? Because
Oh
sometimes you
yeah.
just need to like spring clean. I like your VIP day. It's like spring clean your entire business and really look at, are these things actually getting me where I'm going? And if not, maybe you need to be focusing your energy on different things, right?
Yes, I definitely think that you should do a spring clean at least once a quarter, or like at least twice a year. Once a quarter is
Quarter
kind of a
clean.
lot, but like, yeah, a quarter clean or at least like a spring and an end of the year clean are always like good options for people. Take stock in what you're doing and like you said, having the goals, because that'll definitely reduce the overwhelm.
Amazing. Well, this has been I feel like we could talk forever. I want to like dive into ClickUp
Oh,
more
I
and
know,
more.
me too.
But check out Emma's YouTube channel. I know I will, to see how I can become more efficient. Go to her website, book a discovery call, see if there's an area you could start to really get more organized, or maybe just have that other viewpoint and get started. I think this is like, there's no time like the present. And like she said, no matter what stage you're at in your business, I mean, I always think like, even if you're just beginning, I often have people say, oh, I'm just beginning, I'm not ready. That's the best time to get organized and start putting some of those habits in place and lay those
Yeah.
foundations down, because that gives you like this, I think, open vista to build from. And you feel like, okay, everything's organized. It actually can be really motivating and inspiring to get organized. I feel that way at home. I always feel like, it's just like cleaning out a cupboard or cleaning out the closet. It's like, oh my gosh, I have all these new things to wear, or seemingly new, or oh, I can find something I couldn't find. And I think it's true for your business also. When you get organized, it opens up the possibility and the space for growth. So that's my 2 cents. What I would love to hear, what would you leave us with, if you were going to give us like your best wisdom? Give us some Emma business wisdom to impart on us today.
I feel like you touched on the one piece of just it is good to get started even at the beginning because that's the best time to build that foundation instead of like building your foundation out of straw. I use construction analogies a lot too because my husband's in construction, but you want to have a good, solid, strong foundation for your business, just like you would in a house. So it's better to get started earlier rather than later. And also going back off of what we said before, don't think of things as a failure. Really look at them as a learning opportunity because it's not a failure to try and learn like, okay, that didn't work. It's a data point. It does not have to be emotional. It does not have to mean anything negative or bad about you. It is just that is what it is. We learn from it. We're moving on. Like, don't be afraid to try things and play around and get started because the business you're building should be unique as unique as you. So don't try to copy everything from everyone and do what works for you.
I love that. And that is such a good point. Probably every entrepreneur goes through trial and error, a couple steps forward, maybe a step back. You have to get out there and try. And, resilience is really key when you're building a business because some things aren't going to work. Some projects not going to land well, or you're not going to sell as many of the program as you thought you would, or, but you
Oh
have
yeah.
to keep going. Remember your why, remember your vision, and have fun with it because, it's a process. And especially when it comes to marketing, people are always like, oh, I'm just going to do this
Oh yeah.
thing, and all of a sudden I'm going to magnetize all these people and my business is going to grow. And it really never happens that way. You've got to figure out what works for you and
Yeah.
find your voice. So all great information. Well, Emma, thank you so much for being here with me today. It's so good to hang out with you and dive into this. And I think this is such an important and not often enough talked about, like the behind the scenes and the operations. And it's key. It's just absolutely
Yeah.
key to having an effective and successful business and not
Thank
burn
you so
out.
much for having me. Yeah, I know everyone kind of like learns that point after burnout, but I'm like, I want to help more people not get burnt out. Like, let's
Yes.
prevent that.
Yes, I agree. Let's do that 100%. Do not get burnt out because then it's a little bit harder to pick yourself back up. So, all right. Thank you so much. Till next time.
Thank